G'day traders and welcome back to a brand new year. We're about to review the week from the 6th to the 10th of January. So this is the first week that the market really gets going. It's the first whole week after the new year. And even though typically throughout January volume tends to be a little bit lower as traders start to make their way back for the new year, there's still plenty of great opportunities. And we'll go through that very soon. So let's start off by looking at the daily chart just to see where we're at in the longer term scheme of things. So this is what we're constantly doing in the trading room. We'll start off, we'll review the day, we'll sort of work our way from longer term down to shorter term. So we'll start off longer term with dailies and then 60-minute charts and 15-minute charts, identify trading areas, and then from there we closely analyze the 1-minute, 5-minute charts and just look for predictable trading areas that are very much based on systems. So this is the 5 days we're looking at here. You can see, over the 5 days we've had a little bit of a push up, but in the scheme of things, as we're leading into this particular week, we can see we're very much at high areas. We're continuing to try to push higher, which the market's been doing for many months now. So it's worth keeping in mind that most situations, looking to go long because that's what the markets are doing. So down to the 15-minute chart just to get a bit more idea of, yes, longer term, but a closer look at the areas and the levels, and you can do that on a 15-minute chart. So it's squashed up here at the moment. We've got a couple of weeks in one area, and you can see we've got support and resistance marked at these areas. This is just confluent areas where the market keeps on respecting and coming back to the price, especially these two lower lines here. You can see here a real floor. The market just kept on coming down and it was being held. Same as here, a bit of a roof. Market kept being held. Popped through here, and then to finish off the week we popped through again, but then we're held down by this upper support and resistance. And we sort of spread it out. We can have a look. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days there. Okay, so we really hung around these three support and resistance lines throughout the week, and these are quite relevant because the market, it's very much aware and respecting areas where it's been and turned at before. Other traders are always looking at these areas, so it's worth having these placed on the charts. We put these on the charts. We don't adjust them or add anything as we're trading live, but we certainly have them on the chart as we start, so we're aware of these levels. And sometimes, for example, you might be coming up to an area like this and you might have a great trading setup, for example, to go long, but if you're running right into a support and resistance area, in most cases we'll hold off knowing that this is a potential turning spot. We want to wait for the market to actually get through it before we look at the trading opportunity. So let's get into it. This is Monday, and you can see major support and resistance area there, major support and resistance area here, and as always we got this purple looking dotted box. This is what we call a power box. This is just again, it's a confluent area of price that we've identified for each day's trading. We look for a significant high point and low point based on certain hours within the market, and we certainly talk you through and walk you through these setups in our live trading rooms. To the left hand side we've got other support markets. So this is the Russell, top left hand side, Nasdaq, bottom left hand side, and they move very closely. You can see they look very similar to this main market that we're trading here, but they're a different market. Even though they're USA based, they are a different market, so they have their own little slight nuances and ways of moving. But essentially these markets, they're a lot smaller traded, which means they can skip ahead a lot quickly and sort of give an indication, if you use it properly, of what's happening in the future, give an idea of direction, momentum and movement. So that's how we use them. We look for particular areas. For example, we've got the power box here. We've got a significant low point down here, which was actually came from a little bit earlier. It's also sort of lines up with this area here. We pull back from it, we come back at the bottom edge of this box, so we're looking across to other markets and seeing what are they doing at this particular time. You can see top left hand side, the Russell, it's breaking through as well, looking to push through. So we're coming to this edge here. Remember, we talked about support and resistance as well, so we wouldn't just try and sell here straight away, because for one, we're running straight into the support resistance. We want to wait, see what it does. We want to see other markets backing it. Then once we get through, as long as we've got other markets supporting it, we look for a pullback candle, which would be this one here. In this particular case, it's good because we get through it. We then use this area that we've broken through. Once was a floor, now becomes the ceiling. So, or in other words, once was support, now becomes resistance to push the market lower. We use other things as well. We've got momentum indicators, which are really handy, which I might bring them up a little bit later. As far as giving an idea of direction. We also use volume. Volume is very, very important when you get information from the exchange coming through to us live as the market's moving. There's two main things. We get price, as in where's the market at. We also get volume, how many people behind the trade. Okay, so if people are really behind an area, that's a good thing. You get a good, the trend will keep on moving. If volume starts to drop off, the market normally stops. So it's a very, very useful indicator. It's one of the a really highly regarded piece of information that professional traders use. So the fact is, at this particular spot here, we are having the highest volume of the entire day thus far. So what's that mean? It means that this volume, there's people behind this move to the downside. It's very likely to continue. So high probability trading areas in that spot. It also, these lines or this power box also keeps us from just trading in any spot. So you can see we come down here, we've got a bit of sideways movement, sort of popped up. What we're doing is really waiting for it to come back to this edge and let it tell us what it wants to do. We're not sort of just looking to trade this mishmash up here. We're waiting for significant areas within the market. This particular one went through. We can also look at other ways of trading it. So rather than getting, in this case, a continuation, we can also look for reversions where the market comes down. We're seeing other markets holding. Our momentum indicators are showing signs of weakness and heading back to the upside, and we actually look for a bounce here to head back in the opposite direction. Obviously, in this case, that's not what we're looking for, but that is an option. But this one was very much a case of continuation with volume and other markets, and everything showing a push to the downside. So moving along, I've slid along now to the 7th of January, the Tuesday. Again, we've got in our power box significant high spot, significant low spot. The significant low comes from earlier. Here we go. It's a major turning point within the market. Normally we find it a lot closer to the opening, within this area here, but not always the case. Sometimes we have to go back earlier, but we want to mark these significant edges. So when the market comes back at them, we look to trade them knowing that they're significant in the mind of other traders, and that's the spots you want to be trading. We use volume and, as I say, and other indicators to give us a real good indication of what's happening. Especially these other markets, they're very good at giving us the info to tell us what it wants to do. So if you imagine we come up, at this point we hadn't had the upper side of the box created yet, so we hit here, we pull back at least 3 points more. So now we've got this edge. We let the market come back. It might come to the downside, might come to the upside, but as it's coming back at this point, we look across to the other markets and see what's it doing. Is it pushing through that point? Is it holding back off that point? And that gives us an idea of do we want to go back within the range, or do we want to get a continuation. So this particular day, you can see this support and resistance line running through here. The market just really hung around it. It sort of jumped up for a little bit above it, came back down. You can see it just really hanging around, just really going nowhere. Quite a slow day. In fact, it was a typical day, or a classic example of reversion. Okay, so if you can imagine, the power box is being extended along up here. We extend it throughout the day. For reversion, so this is the opposite of continuation. Earlier I looked at an example of continuation. This particular case, we're looking for reversion. Okay, we look for it within 3 to 4 ticks of this area, so about here. So we're not looking to come up perfectly and touch this area and go back, because we miss a lot of good trading opportunities. We look for it to come into the area and then head back in the opposite direction. Today was a great example of it. You can see other markets. Let me just slide them along. They're not pushing up. Have a look at them. They're not showing any sign of heading up. In fact, they're heading signs of going backwards. So we can see that. So we're looking for sell opportunities to sell in at the top of basically this little move, which gives us means we can really reduce our risk and the potential of high profitability, because we're picking out a trend or a move very early. And that's the great thing about reversion. And it's, you talk to any sort of professional trader or teacher, they'll tell you that sort of getting in early the trends or picking the turning points is sort of, it's a great way, especially for learners or beginners to learn about trading. This is exactly what we do. We're looking for it to revert back in the range. We don't just pick it anywhere. We got our specific zone. So this particular case, it didn't quite get there, but we're certainly looking for this sell opportunity, which eventually did come. And quite often we're picking up on things like these in our trading room. Okay, moving along, we're now on Wednesday. Again, we've marked in our power box, we call the power box significant low spot, significant high spot, which again comes from a little bit earlier back here. We take it up till 10 o'clock, so here's 10 o'clock move, so we're down here as we're drawing in the box. That's why then also we've come up here, so it looks like it should actually be up here, but we base it on certain hours, 8 o'clock in the morning, somewhere around about that, till 10 o'clock, because 10 o'clock is a major time within the markets when all economic news is released, and then from there traders get going with all their trading opportunities. You can see major support and resistance areas too. This was becoming a very strong one. We're seeing over the last few days the market really being held at this spot. It was becoming a solid ceiling. So what happened, we came down, we created our lower edge within the power box, we shot up to the upper side of the power box. Now this is an area, depending on what's happening, if you've got momentum from other markets, we look to trade a continuation. This one, as you can see, as it's breaking up, you look across the other markets, you can see based on that first blue line on each of the boxes that it is breaking up in relative scheme of things. Other markets are pushing through. There's momentum on the upside. However, there's a couple of things that we spoke about in the trading room at the time as to why we didn't particularly like this as a good chance of continuing on, and that's because one, there was support and resistance here, and there's another level which we call yesterday's high here as well. There's resistance levels holding this market down, and in the past this market had really been held down around about this area. So as we talked about, we want to be careful of resistance and support levels. The other major thing, this is the main thing we look at, is volume. Very aware of volume at this particular area. So when you see an area like this, when it's busting up, you should see almost the biggest volume of the day. Okay, so you're always going to get an increase in volume when you're getting strong candles like this and coming up to an edge like this. No doubt about that. You're going to get increased, but you don't just want increased. You want probably almost the best volume of the day. Whenever these areas work, you see pretty much the highest, if the highest, or if not nearly the highest volume of the day. The fact was, this particular area here was it was about half of some of the volume sticks from earlier, which meaning there wasn't a lot of buyers getting behind it. There was a little bit because amateur traders see this and just try to jump on straight away, but we weren't seeing significant volume. That was the biggest thing to say, okay, this might not have the potential to push through, and it didn't. It swung back around and came back to the downside. Classic example then of reversion, which we looked at later on, is this high point here. You imagine that as a bit of a temporary ceiling or resistance level when the market next comes back at it. Remember I talked about reversion, and then as the market comes back, it's sort of, we've got this zone which we're looking for 3 to 4 tick zone, and we look across to other markets, so we know the market's stalled, keeps stalling up at these areas. So that's another great reason to sort of try and pick an area here to get back in on the sell side. And at the same time, if I sort of chunk these markets down a bit, so there you can see that same top. Okay, and I'm just extending the line across so we can see what other markets are doing at the time. So as we're coming up, we can see all other markets are holding. No one's pushing through. There's no pressure. There's nothing saying that there's buyers around. So great opportunity to sell back within the trend and look for it to head to the downside, which is exactly what it did. It just gradually made its way down lower. Okay, moving on to Thursday. Thursday was certainly the biggest ranging day, the most volume-based day as well. It's sort of the biggest day, or the pick of the days of the week. You can see 3 major support resistance areas. We'd never got up to this top one. Here's this other support and resistance that we've been using throughout the week. The one I made reference to that we kept using as a ceiling, an area that was holding the market down. That area yesterday that was holding the market down. So today we started off by getting above it, which was interesting. So the markets were showing signs of really heading to the upside, and then of course another support and resistance down here, and then we've got our power box marked on significant high and low spots. Both of them came from earlier again. And I mean, you should be able to just look back through the pre-market and see significant turning point, upside, lower side, and that's what we mark. Okay, so to start off with, as I said, we got above this support and resistance line, this major ceiling that had been holding the market down throughout the week, and also we've gotten above it. So quite often when you get above it, this area is hold. Then, as I say, it was a ceiling, now becomes a floor. Hold the market up. So we're looking for the market to bounce off this area. We look for the market to come down here. It held for a little bit, showed signs of certainly wanting to do that. But in the end it hasn't, but that's fine. We sort of project out there or make it known to the market what we want to happen. And if we had seen it starting to bounce and volume increase off the bounce, we look for a trading opportunity to go long. But the fact is it came down. It never headed in the other direction. It sort of just hung around the area. We're waiting. We needed to see it start popping up here. It just did, and all of a sudden we get this massive burst of volume to the downside, and obviously movement and everything. So from there, we don't worry about that. That was just a projection that we're looking to potentially happen, and from there we move on, look for other opportunities. Also, then we come to the downside or the lower side of this power box. At this particular time, we're seeing massive volume. You can see other markets really pushing lower, so there was support everywhere for the downside. Everything was indicating pushing lower. Actually, I'll show you volume on this particular one, just so you can see how high it is. There's a volume chart there. So as we're looking to take potential sell continuation, because everything was pointed downside, here's that volume. Look at it. It's it's a third bigger than anything else, and well and truly bigger than all other volumes. So we're seeing the biggest volume of the day. That's what we want to see. If you're seeing that coming down to the area like this, it's good for a potential continuation. In this particular case, it's gone. Let me get these charts right. 2 tick increments is what we normally trade in. So it pullback candle about is here. So we look around about here. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, about 18 ticks. So it still doesn't look like a massive run, but at the end of the day, we're looking for 8 to 10 ticks in these moves, sometimes 12, and it's gone 18 ticks. So it's certainly these small chunks out of the market, intraday chunks, that's what we look for, and a great opportunity to get that out there. Let me just get rid of the volume. I'm going to also bring up, I spoke about how I'd have a quick look at momentum indicators. Today was a classic example, great example of it, just working time and time again. So we just go to, it's just a simple case of adding indicators. So we go here to momentum. Okay, so just added, I'm just reconfiguring it now. So this is how we configure it to suit the way that we like to trade it. So there it is there. Okay, so momentum indicator basically tells you the waves of the down move and the up move, and you can mark channel lines, trend lines, and all sorts of things on this indicator, just like you would on just a normal chart like this one here. So let me just bring up my pencil and show you how we use this. So start off the day, you can see what we're doing is we're a bit of this channel, we're making lower lows like this. Okay, we're also making, I should have said lower highs and lower lows. I won't draw this in exactly, but just so you can sort of get the point. Okay, so you can see this momentum indicator, it's coming down, it's pushing lower, it's popping up without busting back up, it's breaking down lower again. So just like a down move, we want to see it making lower lows, and as it pulls back, we want it to make lower highs. Okay, that's the classic example of a downtrend. Then an uptrend is all of a sudden when you start making higher highs and higher lows. So all of a sudden here you can see the momentum indicator starting to come back and make a higher high for the first time. Then it pulls back and it's making a higher low. So you've got all of a sudden this massive change in momentum to the upside, and by the time this has made a higher high and a higher low, we're only around about here. We're still very early in this new uptrend. We utilize other things like volume and a few things to really give an indication of what's happening, but momentum indicator was very early, was giving it a higher low, saying things are changing, and by here it was giving a higher high. So very good and picks up in trends very early. It does a fantastic job with that. Same over here, and especially when it marks up with significant levels as well. You can see major support and resistance level coming in here. So great potential turning spot if we've got things showing, such as momentum indicator and other markets showing that case. It's the same sort of thing. All of a sudden, let me grab my pencil again. We're in this bit of an uptrend. Okay, we can see momentum indicators constantly making higher highs, and all of a sudden, look, it changes. A lower low for the first time since this uptrend, a lower high here. So now all of a sudden we've got this move down like this, but by the time it's made a lower low and a higher high, sorry, lower high, it's a bit of a tongue twister, we're just in this zone here. We haven't even started turning and making this new down move yet, but momentum indicators are already picking up from it, and then as it starts to, so for example, it's got this little bit of a channel here. As it busts down here, look for a sell opportunity again. You're just looking for 8 to 10 ticks. So there's 2 tick increments, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18 ticks. Then again from there down, there's plenty of move to be able to get, plenty of time to get trades out of that. Then again, another little up move starts, and you can see a momentum indicator showing that we've got a higher low and higher highs. By around about here, still plenty of time in this up move. So that's just one of the little indicators we use. So we use momentum to really help us with price. We've got volume to help us with the other half of that information that we get from the exchange, which is of course how many traders are getting behind certain areas. And then we have market structure, where we've got this power box, support and resistance, other markets. We combine the three together to create high probability trading areas, and that's what market's all about. And you let the market tell us what it wants to do, and from there we take the trades. So that's a wrap up for the week, and we'll back to do it all next week.